Hello everyone. This session is for BSc program and chemistry paper 8 biochemistry session number 25. In this I am going to discuss about bioenergetics, introduction, stages of energy transformation and exergonic and endergonic reactions. So what we have here is the content list is the introduction to bioenergetics, concept of exergonic and endergonic reactions and relation between delta G and K equilibrium. So you know very well human beings are the highly well organized structure, and to maintain this highly organized structure and to do the necessary work, a large amount of energy is required. And where does this energy comes from? So this energy comes from the large amount of energy in the universe comes from sun. The photosynthetic organisms captures this energy and in turn produces food. So these foods are broken down into various other compounds, in turn releases energy. So what we are observing here is lot of energy changes taking place to maintain this a highly evolved human being structures, and there is a lot of energy changes involving biochemical reactions. So the branch of biochemistry which deals with the energy changes in biological reactions is known as bioenergetics. Okay. So, this is concerned with initial and final states of the reaction component and not on the mechanism of the chemical reaction. Now, to go in detail with the bioenergetics, remember all biochemical reactions that are taking place in the human body are isothermal in nature, means they are taking place at constant temperature. So, we are not using any temperature term here, that is the change of heat involved in biochemical reactions. We are using a thermodynamic function free energy, which is designated by the symbol capital G. So, as I already mentioned, energy which is required to maintain the structure and function of the living cells. So, this is derived from oxidation of carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins in our diets. And how does energy is liberated? Whatever the energy is liberated is in the form of ATP. So, ATP cannot be stored, it is generated wherever required. So it is known as the currency of the living cell. So remember, each gram of carbohydrate and protein gives about 4 kilocalories on oxidation, while each gram of a fat gives about 9 kilocalories on oxidation. So biological oxidation, if I come to the exact definition, it is a quantitative study of energy transformation occurring within a cell and all the properties of chemical reactions underlying these chemical transformation. Okay. Remember, all these biological energy transformation obey basic laws of thermodynamics. And any transformation of energy is dependent on the free energy content of the cell, as I already mentioned, and it is denoted by capital letter G. Okay. Now, see, these are the different stages of energy transformation. Sun, which is the major source of energy in the universe, this solar energy is captured by photosynthetic organisms in the presence of chlorophyll, where carbon dioxide and water combine together to give carbohydrates. So this process is known as photosynthesis. These carbohydrates are broken down in glycolysis and so many other cycles with the release of ATP in the presence of oxygen or in the absence of oxygen, and this breaking down of food molecules or the complex molecules is known as cellular respiration, which in turn liberates ATP. So this ATP that is released is used for energy utilization, where and all it is used in biosynthesis of various compounds, in active transport, in muscle contraction, and many cases this chemical energy is converted into electrical energy. You remember fireflies, where chemical energy is converted into electrical energy there, and in bioluminescence, and in many other process this ATP is used. So these are the different stages of energy transformation that is taking place in the universe. Now, as I told you, we are going to use a thermodynamic function free energy. What is this free energy? Suppose if you consider 10 as the total energy available, if you are using only two part of it, that is, the amount of energy that is used out of the total energy is known as the free energy. Okay. So it is also known after named after Gibbs as the Gibbs free energy, and it is defined as a free energy content in a cell at a constant temperature and pressure. See, for a reaction A giving rise to B, this delta G, whenever delta comes, you have to use a word change. That is, change in free energy is free energy of the product minus free energy of the reactant. Okay, where Gb is the free energy content of the product and Ga is the free energy content of the reactant. See, delta G can also be determined by another equation. Delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta H, where delta H is the change in enthalpy, T is the temperature, and delta S is the change in entropy. So now, the value of this delta G helps us to predict the direction of a chemical reaction, and it also tells us whether the reaction is spontaneous, favorable, etc. etc. So, we have to remember these things now. Coming to case 1. If delta G is negative, before that let me tell you, in ordinary chemical reactions which you have conducted in the lab where there is a liberation of heat, you have come across right from your high school chemistry while doing in a practical classes. If the heat is liberated, it is called as an exothermic reaction. If the heat is absorbed, it is known as the endothermic reaction. If you come to biochemistry, you are going to use the word exergonic, endergonic, exergonic, endergonic, because we are not talking in terms of heat here, because all these reactions are taking place at constant temperature, that is, they are isothermal in nature. Now, if delta G is negative, what happens? It is exergonic reaction, spontaneous and favorable reaction. So whenever delta G is negative, remember they are exergonic reaction, spontaneous reaction and thermodynamically favorable reaction. So spontaneous means the reaction which takes place without any help of external agency is known as a spontaneous reaction. You have learned from your PUC classes. If the water falling from a higher region to a lower region, it is known as a spontaneous process. You remember waterfall. It's a spontaneous. Okay. That is, no external agency is required. Water falls on its own accord. So any reaction which takes place on its own accord is known as a spontaneous reaction. Now, delta G is Gb minus Ga, as I already mentioned. See, for the above reaction, it is negative when Gb is less than Ga. That is, the free energy of the product is less than free energy of the reactant. Then delta G becomes negative. So, such reactions are called exergonic reaction, and all exergonic reactions are favorable or spontaneous in nature. Second case, if delta G is positive, you call them as endergonic reactions, non-spontaneous, unfavorable reaction. Okay, you consider a reaction A giving rise to B. Delta G, you know, Gb minus Ga. For this reaction, it is positive when free energy of the product is greater than the free energy of the reactant. Okay, The reactant molecule gains excess energy to form the products. Such reactions are known as endergonic reactions. Remember, they are non-spontaneous because they require energy from outside and they are thermodynamically unfavorable reaction. Case 3. If delta G is equal to 0, then the reaction is considered to be at equilibrium. So, three things you remember. Delta G negative, exergonic. Delta G positive, endergonic. Delta G is 0, the reaction is at equilibrium. Okay. Now, look at this graph. If the Gibbs free energy is plotted against time, look at this. Reactant is at less energy compared to that of the product. Delta G is greater than 0. Reaction is not spontaneous. Energy is absorbed. Delta G is greater than 0. Come here, exergonic reaction. We look here. The free energy of the reactant is higher than that of the free energy of the product. Delta G is less than 0 and the reaction is spontaneous, energy is released. So remember two things. Delta G positive endergonic reaction, thermodynamically not favorable, non-spontaneous. Delta G negative exergonic reaction, thermodynamically favorable and it is a spontaneous reaction. Now, coming to the relation between delta G and K equilibrium, see for a reaction A giving rise to B, delta you can write delta G is equal to delta G naught plus RT ln concentration of the B divided by A. You know at equilibrium delta G is equal to 0 and I write this as K equilibrium. So it becomes 0 is equal to delta G naught plus RT ln K equilibrium. So delta G naught is equal to minus RT ln K equilibrium. It is the relation between delta G and then K equilibrium. So this helps us to know whether the reaction is spontaneous because R is constant. You can you can take the value of temperature R and product of R and T, and when you substitute you get value of delta G naught. So you can determine whether the reaction is spontaneous, not spontaneous, or it is at equilibrium. Okay. So in this session, you have learned three main things. The concept of spontaneity of the reaction, exergonic reaction, endergonic reaction, and the sign of delta G for exergonic, endergonic reaction and the reactions at equilibrium. Thank you.